What is going on, everybody? We are here with Master Crafted. It is me and John today. Phil is still busy with work, so he could not make it to the tournament, so he could not make it to this. And we are going to be talking about our RMO weekend, how it went for us, some of the takeaways, some of the changes we might make, and just generally how the event went overall and some of the winners. John, how you doing today? You a little tired? You little, six games take a toll.
Yeah, definitely a little tired, but I'm also pretty juiced, pretty good weekend for the Tau, all things considered, and um, definitely feeling a little bit rejuvenated after feeling like my faction is kind of a little underpowered, so you still got some play. How about you, Lane?
I was really slow getting going this morning. If we needed to do a third day, I definitely would have been up for it. But I slept in. It was nice to catch up on some sleep. That was a long weekend. A lot of fun games. Just always great to see the community and hang out with everybody. And yeah, just play fucking 40K, rolling some dice. Never can complain.
Hell yeah.
So let's go ahead and dive right in. Day one, first mission, playing Linchpin. How was your game? What'd you go into?
Yeah, so I played on War Games Live actually into Adam Tricola's Space Marines. Had a really good match. I'm sure we could link it down below so you guys can watch it yourselves. But what I brought in my list, like kind of my spice to it, was two aircraft. So the aircraft, basically, because of Tau's army rule and its special rule, it gets to hit on twos. Tau has a lot of rerolls from like Shadow Sun, real once to hit, stealth suits, reeling once to hit and wound, and it's just extremely efficient into Space Marines. So there was a couple pivotal moments there where I used a couple key strats like the Rampagers ended up on his natural expansion turn one, or sorry, my turn one to deny it. But all things considered, it was a great game. Adam is a really high level opponent. He went 6-0 at LVO, so just really happy to get out of round one with a win there. And yeah, the planes came in clutch for me, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we can also any other highlights of your list that you wanna talk about while we're on it before we go through the rest, or do you feel like you covered it?
No, I mean, yeah, as far as like the list is concerned, it's very like tailored to kind of, I guess my comfort level at this point. I have, a bunch of layers of screens, right? So I have 8 auxiliary units, 3 Rampagers, 2 Carnivores, and 3 units of Vespid. And the idea behind the list is a lot of the armies in the meta today are, highly elite. So if I continuously throw one thing on the point, they have to keep answering it. And so really the aim of the list is to, and kind of what I found out over the weekend, is to put things on objectives turn one, if I go first, and or turn two if I go second, and force my opponent to put their trash forward and stage up their damage dealers behind it, so I can then kill the trash with my stuff that's on the board, right? Rampagers, my Fire Knife team, my Hammerheads, and then kill the staging units with the planes. And that way, I create a real imbalance on the board where then they really have to overextend to go hit the middle. And if they don't get there in time, then all of a sudden I'm sticking it with Kroot. They start losing their screen, so now Vespid are going to their backfield. So it's very much like a very synergistic list in that respect. But yeah, that's kind of like the thought process I went into it. But anyways, how was your round one? Who did you play into?
Man, round one for me, I got into Yanari. I really wasn't looking forward to playing into Yanari this weekend. Only behind Dakka on things I did not want to see. I got into a couple things I didn't want to see this weekend, but that's part of the fun, seeing what pairings you get as you go. Yeah, went into Yanari. I obviously took the 12 Bulgrin as I had mentioned before, only because we were on Search and Destroy, and day one it really was just super helpful. They were able to be a huge front line and a threat of anything you want to poke out. Regardless, there's some that can either tie you up or maybe even kill you depending on kind of how the level of tankiness you have yourself with your cheaper trading units, and just tie things up. It was a really interesting game. I haven't played into Eldar in probably I don't know, since July of last year, so I haven't actually seen him on the table. But we've done the review, we did some of the homework, I knew some of the tricks, had the incarn, so just always had to be super conscious of that, and that was just one of the things I was very proud of in that game. Full brain power engaged to just make sure I'm not killing anything that if it dies and is replaced, that I don't just have a Dorn pointing at that exact spot.
Sure.
And so that was a really big thing for me is being able to do that and track where they could go. I being search and destroy, I did get lucky enough to go first, and so I really just went and took that space. I staged my Bulgaren, right there in the center of the board behind those middle two terrain pieces, and kind of was able to just say, hey, if you want to come party, I'm here. But it was a good game. It was a thinker for sure. Probably the most I had to think in a game besides the one we played, John,
Yep.
in round three.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a tough matchup, but was able to get it, was able to put enough pressure that even with the tricks, just he wasn't able to come out and get within melt range of my tanks early enough to really take the board back at that point. So yeah, super super fun game. Linchpin, he stole my home twice because of the warp jump
Oh
or
my
whatever.
goodness.
I forget what that unit has. I
Yeah.
totally forgot
Like
they
your
had it. And then yeah, by the time he did that, he stole my home but couldn't take the middle. And so I was able to just kind of get the edge on primary and secondary and just keep it there even with that happening. So
nice win, man. That's a hard matchup. That's a really hard matchup.
it was tough. Oh man, I am not looking forward to playing it again. Of all the things that get the hammer, it's not looking like they're at the top of the list. So I don't know if it's going anywhere anytime soon, but we'll see. Going into round two, it was on Scorched Earth, still in that search and destroy deployment. How did your game go?
Yeah, so I played someone who it was their first tournament, their first GT. She had played around 10 games of 40K. So it was, she was playing Chaos Knight's War Dog spam, except she actually only had 11 War Dogs, which definitely worked in my favor. She ran this Blue Horror unit, the unit that splits with a character that gives it -1 to hit, and I had the absolute perfect counter for it in the Fire Knife unit. So when I saw that, I knew that probably one of her first strategies was just going to be put the Blue Hoarder unit onto an objective in the middle of immediately. And so I had my Fire Knife unit staged up. She did that. She put him on the center, and I one shot at turn one, and that was kind of it from there. It was just a game of killing 3 or 4 War Dogs a turn, and then obviously just being a newer player, staging her units and stuff. She could she could have attacked a little bit more efficiently. So, anyways, it was a good game though. For someone who's new at 40K, she played it really well. But other than that, I think it was a pretty good matchup for me, all things considered. What about you?
Yeah, I got to go into a local guy from the morale check team here. He was playing Vanguard Space Marines, and with kind of the nerfs to the things they have seen with the devs, I guess he was running Raven Guard, so I guess he didn't have that opportunity to start with. Just had 1 6-mana Plasma Inceptors, and then some suppressors and eliminators, but didn't have a ton of anti-tank. So I was kind of able to just not completely sit in the open, but limit my exposure, and then just go put a bunch of things in the mid board again, and just be hard to remove. And it worked out in my favor. Scored really well. He was able to clear quite a few things. Was able to take down a Dorn, but it just I don't know. It played a ton into Marines. Everybody has,
Yeah.
I felt like a decent matchup with all the damage 3 I had, but very well played, and it was a fun game. Then. End of day one,
Two Titans.
oh man, always gotta get one of the tough ones out early, right?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. You had top of turn?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so Lane and I played on what was the mission? Was it Lynchpin?
It was Burden.
Oh, it was Burden. Yeah, duh.
Yes, and we actually played this mission last August or something at Collected Mania
Yeah.
forever ago.
Yep.
And it's the only 2 times we've ever played, and it's the same mission. I'm pretty sure.
You know what's funny is now that I think of it, the difference between both games was one big bring it down turn. When I played Lane, I got bring it down. I think I held it and I all-in'd him, and I got pretty lucky. I think I picked up a 6-man Sentinel unit and a 2 Russes or something like that. And then against me, Lane had the exact same thing happen. You held bring it down, right? Yeah, he held bring it down and then picked up every vehicle that I had. But I thought Lane made a really good play. So when we were on Search and Destroy Layout 1, there's you can basically deploy your unit out in the open in front of your opponent's natural. So he did that with a Torox and a unit of Bulgrin, which made me wildly uncomfortable because I knew that I didn't feel like I had a strong plan to deny his natural because he had a couple flamers pointed at it. He was about to sticky it. He was about to put Bulgrin right next to it. So I thought if I can't deal with these two units, the Torox with dudes inside and the Bulgrin as soon as possible and lock down my primary, then I'm probably just going to lose the game on the spot. Um, Now, I had a move block set up so I could at least stage him off for one turn, which was important because I felt that if I put out like my damage dealers like hammerheads, first of all, I wasn't going to kill the Bulgrin, and second of all, I think I would again lose on the spot because I think you just come back and you hit me with a Dorn or two, you pick up a hammerhead, and then now I have 4.5 Bulgrins staring at me with a Dorn staged in the middle of the table pushing towards my natural. So my thought process was like, okay, I need to wait for the planes to come in turn 2 before I can actually try to take a stab at killing these Bulgrin. And through a series of like me being like just I don't know, just like really thinking way too hard, and Lane probably making a little bit of an error, I was able to get onto his natural, which made it a lot closer a game than it probably should have been. Now, I think if you do that, if you shore up that one mistake, I don't think it's really close at all. But one thing, like one key thing that I think I super underutilized, one strat, was just grenades. Like I should have just been literally grenading a Bulgrin off the table every single turn, like straight up. Like I think even when you were at like full, like when I was running past you with the Rampagers, I think I should have just thrown a grenade sideways and like just picked one off,
Yeah.
because I think
The classic drive-by.
yeah, and like obviously we'll get to kind of your side of things, but like those Bulgrin ended up on my doorstep like very soon after that, um, and yeah, like I held on long enough for it to be close, but like if you looked at the table turn 4, you would have been like, wow, this must be like guard must be up by 30 right now. like, but anyways, yeah, what were your thoughts coming out of that game?
Uh, yeah, I totally agree. Bulgrin were just there. You didn't have a lot of great profiles to go into them
No,
to start with.
I really didn't. I didn't realize it until I got to the table. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, yeah. The planes were all like damage 2. They at least were strength 8, so wounding on 3s didn't feel too bad, and twin linked. Very nice in that aspect. Yeah, I needed to. I didn't advance one of my units to just fully screen out a set of his rampagers, and he was able to not only scoot them up the board with an auto advance, or just advance and charge, and was able to go kill some ratlings I had doing sabotage and holding the point. So that just wiped 9 points off the board. I definitely could have kept with a little bit more forethought. But yeah, it really was just one of those things where it's always nice to be close to Tau. You always want to start there. You don't want to have to get across the board as they shoot the shit out of you. In my opinion, even as guard, I would rather be able to get my tanks up close and personal and within range of more of my guns on the Dorn. But yeah, I felt like it really was one of those things of just Bulgrin starting in the middle. They basically, the first set that started really out there, almost got to your home by the bottom of 3. They
Yeah,
were at least knocking.
yeah, they were like,
You were able to deal with them.
yep.
And then my other 6-man basically just sat in the center until the top of 5, I want to say, is when you cleared them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It took like everything I had, and oh man, I was gonna say something. Nah, I forgot. Back to you, Lane.
Oh no, it's all good. I mean, they legitimately did that first squad of Bulgrin tanked basically. Was it like
It was
2 hammerheads?
so it was
And
it was 2 hammerheads, a fire knife unit, and a plane, which ended up being yeah, it ended up killing 3 Bulgrin. I was just like, okay.
yeah,
Um,
I definitely rolled. I was rolling a little bit hotter on my 4-ups than if you go watch my game against Matt on the War Games Live when I played him round 5. I was not rolling 4-ups at all, and John would have definitely taken that. I am sure
I
is that style of rolls.
Yeah, 100%. So this is what I was thinking about was just, I only had one unit of broadsides, um, and I knew I was going to lose the shootout. I can't win that shootout. Um, I can kill, I could have killed the one Dorn, which maybe it would have been worth my while, but again, then I'm ignoring the Bulgrin that are just like, about to steal my home. Um, which, thinking back on it, maybe wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, to be honest. It's only 2 points. So maybe it would have been just fine to just be like, okay, you know what? There are Bulgrin on my home. Like, who cares? Um, you can 2 or 3 guys can hang out. Oh, I guess you could score primary. But anyways, with the fact that you had the Dorn that had a blank, with the fact that you had a Dorn with a 4-up invuln, like there's just no way I'm getting through all that armor. So, like pretty early on, I just kind of decided like, okay, we're basically just gonna like let the Dorns do what they're gonna do and pray, essentially.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I thought the target priority was strong. Like the no one else killed my planes that early. Like no one else
Yeah.
targeted planes that quickly. I don't think anyone killed more than one plane, if that, even in my other games. So taking them out early was also really, really smart because they're the ones that can just do consistent chip damage for me, which is important, or just like pick off units that are in hard to reach places, like staging units and whatnot. So yeah, I thought you had a really strong game plan.
Yeah, as soon as you brought both of them in, I was like, all right, well, I know what two of my Dorns are doing at a minimum.
Yeah,
Like, I am not letting
yeah,
them fly around. Your ability to just pick up any of my chaff with them
yeah.
and then make me do actions with tanks or
Exactly.
Bulgrin, like I knew I had to bring them down, or you were just going to take away my trash, and then I'm on the back foot. So
Exactly. Yeah, that was totally
yeah,
the idea. Was like make you play the game with those 5 units, and if I could get that done, then maybe I have a chance.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good enough gist of it. We don't want to digress too far
Hmm.
on it. We got a lot more to cover.
Yep.
Going into day two, right back to just classic Warhammer taking hold. How was your game?
Yeah, it was good. I played Max Myers, who's a really good player. He beat me actually in our 4-2-5-1 game. Last GT, it was the final game of the event. I timed out at the end. He didn't really clock me. He was a really great opponent. I just, brain was fried. I was playing Red Cadre, just wasn't going my way. But we kind of had a different game this time around. He had some things not swing his way. Missing, he spent 2 CP to auto advance his Samael unit. He was playing Dark Angel Stormlance. Spent 2 CP to send his Samael unit. He'd spent 1 CP earlier in my turn 1 to try to save a unit of try to save his Dark Shroud. So he had no CP to reroll a charge, and I had 1 Crude on the objective. He ran out his what are they called? The inner circles with
Oh,
Azrael to hit a 6-inch charge and missed the 6-inch charge. So I scored a 15, stickied the middle, and then I picked up Azrael and the Inner Circle companions, and then he traded his Samael unit for a unit of Kroot. So that I
oof.
killed those two, and I picked up a Lancer that tried to kill my Hammerhead, and I rolled boxcars on the saves. And that was turn two, so like it was just really downhill for him from there. And I think just like a kind of a tough, like I don't know if there was like kind of a win path for him there, to be honest, after that point. So
Yeah.
just kind of ran away with it from there. But I think things go differently if he just says, okay, I'm going second. Like let me just take it. You get the 15 this turn, and I'm gonna hit you with my whole army when I get a Rapid Ingress Deathwing Knights, and um,
Yeah.
so I think a good learning game for him. But what about you? Who did you play into?
I went into Chris playing Crusher Stampede. He's from
Ugh,
he's from the Springs, great guy. I've got to play him before, and lethals are just very very useful.
Drew. Yeah.
And then I was thankfully able to just really get into his lines with Bulgrin in that game and just kind of tie him up in his deployment zone and not risk too much. But it was still a very good game. The lethals did help. It wasn't as many. I played a Crusher as well in round 6,
Hmm.
and it was a lot of like 2-up save base and 2-up 4-up, and not having I forwent the Exterminator for the extra set of Bulgrin, and I was paying it in that game. This game I was able to handle it, but it was still, man, big bugs, man. They can be tough to deal with.
They're scary. It's a good thing you had Sticky too, at least for that matchup, right? Just you could
Yeah.
just be like, all right, listen, like, sure, your Shadow of the Warp's gonna turn off my strats, but like at least you're not gonna like, I'm gonna guarantee I get some primary out of this.
Yep, yeah, and it did. He went with it early, and I did lose it on a Bulgarinia. I had already gotten into the center at that
Mm,
point from a heroic, and
nice.
then so I lost some primary. I think he timed it well, and I did lose one of my Dorns, lost an order because of it. But I got fairly lucky in that game and was able to still not be affected with at least 2 of the Dorns, and that's big for the shooting. Hitting on 4s just doesn't feel good.
Hmm.
But
Nice.
yeah, great game. And then going into round 5, the old Purge the Foe, something trash armies love to play.
Yeah. So really funny story here. I ended up playing my identical twin brother, and we practiced this mission on Friday, so 2 days before this event, and we actually drew. So, but we had basically a carbon copy game. He had to deploy a Rhino kind of out in the open. I went first, which is huge against World Eaters because then I can move up my screens, put trash on objectives, and and also importantly know like what his blood dice are going to be, right? So I know if he has advance and charge, like I know how far I can stage up versus not. So I had a big score lead early on because I got 2 rounds of really good secondaries, picked up a lot of his trash, but then turn 3, I want to say, he hit me with his whole army and he started actually chipping away. He put Angron in front of me and I basically just bounced on him. I left him on 1. I had to charge him with Rampagers, and he was, there were Exalted 8-bound right within the, right next to him, so I had to actually charge the Exalted as well, which was obviously terrible. Like, I lost Killmore on the spot because I had to kill Angron. I threw a grenade at him. I threw my whole army into him. And I got him on the charge mortals, but then the Exalted 8-bound killed my, killed my, Rampagers, and then went into the rest of my army, and then immediately he got Angron back. So it was a really swingy game, and then at the end I ended up picking up the planes were just going off, right? They picked up like every other unit that he had that wasn't Angron, and I think at the end of the game I want to say he had 3 units or 2 units. I think he just had 1 unit of Exalted and Angron, so he just wasn't able to get the kill more there. If he had like 1 more 8-bound unit, he would have gotten me, but I ended up pulling it out by 4. So it was a great game though.
Yeah, as long as you can keep those planes away from Angron, man.
Yeah. Man, the World Leaders players love just spiking planes with Angron. Let me tell you, he did get to one. He did get to one of them. But yeah, how's your game?
It was good, man. I got to play Matt on stream. It was my first time on War Games Live, and we just, I've played Matt, I don't know, 5 times or so.
Sure.
And Death Guard is the only non S tier army that I didn't want to see, I guess, this weekend, just because, a quarter of my list was the Bulgrin and hinging on them being able to really, keep people contained. And Death Guard, they have so much anti-infantry, and then you stack Morty on top of it with ignore mods, and he just wiped them away. It was a fun game though. I tried to screen him back. It being purged, he had 21 units, but all of those drones are just T9, the Hellbrute as well. They're T9 with 10 wounds, and they're hard to chunk through. Whereas my trash is oh yeah, he'll pick up anything I put out there in a heartbeat. It just doesn't matter.
Sure.
And stuff. And so I tried to at least, give him the struggle of, move block him a little bit and hope he, can't deny me some of the hold more and try to get him to come out. And he sent it, man. He had top of turn, and so we went into turn 2 after I had moved out, and he just ran out in the open. Wow. And he made it was a 9-inch charge. He rolled an 11 to get onto my natural with his death shrouds. And
not where you want to be.
Yeah, tied up a Dorn, and it snowballed from there. He got another good roll. I think he had an 8-inch charge with Morty in the center when he going into those Bulgrin. I definitely should have advanced my other ones out because they would have had more reach to just make sure he stayed back a little farther. I was trying to play a little more back, hoping less things could get to him, but I know that was definitely a mistake now. But yeah, you live and you learn. It was a fun game. It was a great stream. Stream of the weekend. I think no disrespect, John, but
that's okay.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the planes being non-interactive kind of pissing people off in chat. I rewatched it and everybody's like, "What? You can't charge the plane?" I'm like, "Can't charge the plane.
Can't do it, dude.
Sorry.
Sucks to suck.
Sucks to suck, man.
Why don't you just shoot him down, dude? Get a Dorn.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah. I mean, the lattice cannons. I mean, not when I'm just rolling 6s and lattice cannons just left and right. You just can't get through that.
Nope. It's true, but yeah, it was a good game, a lot of fun. Matt's a great guy. He's been on the channel multiple times. That Death Guard list,
great player,
man. If Death Guard wasn't, if Dakka wasn't so prevalent and wasn't as OP, dude, I seriously think he would have had a good shot at 6-0.
Yeah, it's sneaky good actually. I agree. I think it's sneaky good right now.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. All right, last round, and then we'll get into some of the meat and potatoes of how some of the factions ended up.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so my last round played World Leaders again. With having my twin brother play World Leaders, I've played that matchup probably 12 times. With Ox Cadre, probably 4 or 5 maybe at this point. Um, he had an even worse list than to me, which was not MSU. He had two big like 6-man Exalted bricks. He had a Lord on Jug and Invocatus. So he just did not have the trash to deal with me. Um, so he just, I did what I did in my other games, which was just like put a dude on the center and say, okay, what are you gonna do about it? And eventually he ran out of stuff. But Angron came back again, first try. First try, both games, first try, round 3. Just like put my whole army into Angron, barely killed him. He was at 2, and I threw a grenade at him, 0 damage. I was just like, brother, this is my nightmare. And then I again got him with the charge mortals from the Rampagers, thank God. But the guy I was playing, he told this is what he said to me. He said, man, I'm just kind of hungry. Like, I just want this game to be over with. Like, this was genuinely like not that like it was kind of a close game. Like, it was, I was definitely I think I was gonna win, but like it was not that far off. And he was just like, "Do you want to just talk over here?" And I was like, "Sure." We were like talking out. I was like, "Turn 4, we're within like 10 points." He's like, "Yeah, you score everything. I score nothing." I'm just like, "All right." My man just wanted some dinner, so I kind of got away with one there. I definitely was gonna win just because again, like he was getting to the 2 units left, probably turn 4, one of them being Angron.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna outscore him, but still, it was kind of funny that like it was a pretty close game for a minute there, and he was just like, "Yeah, let's just get some
I
food."
got dinner calling, dude.
Yeah, I was
Wrap this
like, you
shit
know
up,
what?
dude.
I respect this man. Knows what he wants. What about you? How was your round 6?
I went into a 4-0-1 player. He ended up placing fourth overall,
No shit.
and yeah, it was another crusher list. It was triple Norn,
Mm.
2 Tyrannofexes,
Oh,
Maliceptor. It was just excessively tanky,
yeah.
and making that sacrifice of an exterminator. I felt in that game more than any other, and I think that's one of those things of I as much as I loved abusing Bulgrin on, half of the games, being able to just start him in the center of the board,
Hmm.
knowing that I can't do that in the last couple rounds, I'm going to, play for the finals and try to really make sure I'm ready for the toughest of lists, and those missions specifically, and try to just, try to play well at the start of the tournament, and just on skill more than on just sheer Bulgrin abuse, make it to those rounds.
Yeah,
But
I was curious, like, what do you think? Because Bulgrin, I feel like they do kind of only they work best right when there's like 12 of them. When you have like the second layer also so how would you change the list? You still just run the one then?
I'm definitely running one six
Yeah.
mana Bulgrin. The number of situations where they're just still insanely helpful. The number of times I can dangle like even Rattlings or something against melee armies out in the middle, if and then just heroic in and be like, well, I tagged one of your guys. He can fight my Bulgrin, but the rest are gonna kill Rattlings, and then I'm gonna slap the shit out of your 2 wound guys, and still hold primary and going into turn 2.
Sure.
It's just they just can do things that no other unit in guard really can.
Hmm.
You definitely can base your style around not playing with him. Almost everybody else does right now. So,
Hmm. Sure.
but I think they just have an insanely good added value, especially into melee matchups. Unless it's Death Guard, you really can just kind of say, here's a front line. You're gonna have to trade down for it. Almost all melee damage are a lot of damage too, if not one, and
Yeah.
it just none of it really feels good going into Bulgrin. You're generally trading down pretty hard
Well, yeah.
points wise to take them out.
Any of the anti-elite too, like all the damage 3, damage 2, damage 1. It's like or damage 3 and damage 2. It's just terrible, dude. It feels awful going into it. It's like this is so bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I needed to be way more killy. So I'm definitely going to be putting an exterminator back in. It's just always nice. You don't always need to stack AP, but people think the exterminator isn't as good as some of the other tanks. But honestly, 8 shots of twin linked autocannon, it'll mess some shit up.
Yeah.
And 4 Meltas and a Laz never hurt anyone to have in their list. So
100%.
I'll probably go back to running that. I don't like the Hellhound. Ignoring cover just really, I don't know. While the idea of it is nice, the Hellhound, that Overwatch isn't a threat. 2d6 at 621 you might pick up two Marines, like,
Hmm.
and there better be
Yeah.
two wound Marines at that.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'll tell
like
you, it's pretty good into crew. Let me tell
yeah,
you, man.
it is good into crew. But if I have three Dorns with 18 stubber shots, if I have trouble picking up crew, I've got bigger
Yeah,
problems.
fair. You make a good point.
Yeah, but that's some of the only changes I'm really looking at is going back to just the six Bullgrin, changing up some of the trash. Tech Priest isn't going to be in there anymore. It just kind of fit points wise.
Hmm.
Gave it a try. It didn't really come up that much needing a 4-up invuln. Generally, people are like, "Oh, 4-up invuln. Well, I guess I'll shoot one of your other Dorns." So
Yeah,
it just
fair.
whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah. Any changes for you?
I don't think so. I mean, to be fair, I think like I my personal thought process is that and my battery's going out, so I might have to switch in a little second. But my thought process is like I don't really think Tau is the critical damage to deal with stat checks anyways. Like I think if you brought all of the damage dealing units in Tau, I still think you'd have a bad matchup into stat checks. So why not lean into our better matchups, which is into anti-elites? But yeah, why lean into you know why make my good matchups harder for me while making my bad matchups like less terrible, like still bad?
Yeah.
So I really don't think I would change much after thinking about it. I think I really liked Shadow Sun with the plans as a package. I'd love to fit Ghost Keels in there, but I just don't see a way to really get them in. I know Matt really likes the Melta command or the Melta Ghost Keels. I personally am not that big of a fan, just because of the three shots. Like it's cool, it's cool into stuff without invulns, but the Melta 2 is just kind of middling, in my opinion, and like they're susceptible to smoke, they're susceptible to invulns, and only two shots of strength 12 just doesn't really do it for me. So yeah, I really think I would just roll with the same list to be honest at this point. Like I think it's pretty optimized for beating Marines, beating World Eaters, beating elite armies, um, and thankfully those are the matchups that I got. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Great weekend for you. Ended up 5-1. Can't complain. Just one pain in the ass round three, and easy breezy. Other than that.
5 points off 6-0, man. But yeah, like to your point, right? Like you went 4-0. Your game 5 and game 6 were significantly harder than mine were, and like it's funny. Mine was like it felt top heavy. My day 1 felt top heavy. My day 2 felt pretty like okay, but still had to like fight through some pretty tough stuff there towards the end. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I did not get as lucky. It was just all heavy. It felt like
Yeah.
just front to back Yanari all the way to Crusher. Just there wasn't the gas was it just always had to be going, man. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at how everyone finished for the weekend. I will go ahead and pull up the screen here for everybody to see, and we do have, we have the standings. Who would have thought? MOAR DAKKA takes not only the win, but second and third. What are your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, I think MOAR DAKKA is completely busted. I'm actually pretty happy that these three guys all brought it, just to show how bananas it is.
Mhm.
Um, maybe honestly, it could be helpful to pull up MetaWatch Monday, just kind of see like there's another tournament in the UK. Also had three more DAKKA folks win. So it's just like at this point, I also me and Lane were talking before the episode. They also so there was a tournament organizer who posted that if they don't make any changes before the tournament, they're actually thinking about banning the detachment, which I think is a great idea because it is too busted. I think there was out of like I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was under 50 MOAR DAKKA players, I believe, and 19 of them went X and one, which is just an absurd statistic. Um, and yeah, as you can see, like you played Kenneth, he's running a stat check. Um, Chaos Demons, another stat check. What else we got? Mike P. I mean, he was running more mixed arms, but Imperial Knights. So you could see like outside of MOAR DAKKA, the more successful armies in the game are kind of running those stat check type lists. Andreas Hoffman running a different stat check, right? He's running that ridiculous unit that like reses between activations and like is essentially unkillable. Um, I just beat up on a bunch of elite armies, and then you can kind of see it's just like the rest of the meta. Here we are,
Yeah.
fighting for essentially second and third tier, right?
Yep.
Um, yeah. What are your thoughts? Like, what are you thinking outside of that?
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to not see how overpowered orcs are right now. It was very apparent. I totally agree with that TO's decision to just say, hey, this isn't healthy for the game. And honestly, some of the brief conversations I had with some of the guys running orcs, it was like they were basically trying to prove it.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, this shouldn't be here, so we'll show you why.
Yeah.
And they just proceeded to do so. The fact that all three of those players never saw each other going into the finals was wild. We all knew they were going to do great, but the fact that not a single one of them paired against the other was very impressive. They all got to see apparently a different level of opponent win percentage toughness. So they never paired, which is insane.
Chef's kiss, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
meant to be. Yeah, it was funny. I was building my list, and I heard people talk about more deck. Obviously, you guys talked about it. We all talked about it together on the tier list. But I was just like, I'm not even gonna bother trying to tech into this. Like, what's the point? I'm just gonna pretend that it doesn't exist, and if I hit it, I'm dead. And if I don't, then I'm great. So like,
Yeah.
and I think that's most people's thought process. Now I know. Um, Matt Evans actually he had a list that he believed could handle more Dakka, and I thought it was a pretty interesting list. Now he, of course, and he thought it could beat Inari, but of course Matt Evans did not play Inari or more Dakka, so we couldn't actually see that in action. But yeah, as you can see, there's just too much shit in here, right? Like 30 Ludas, 30 Tank Bustas, 4 trucks, right? So just like not only a ton of damage, but the 4 trucks do the scoring. What else? He's got the big Gretchen unit.
Yeah.
And is he
Two
running
small
the?
ones.
Yep. Is he
Yeah.
running the? This
Oh yeah.
is this guy. Okay, so this guy wasn't running the commandos, but the cherry on top is running that. The commandos alongside the Zagrod unit. So not only do you like basically increases his chances of jailing you by 25%, in my opinion, because if he wins the roll off, right?
Yeah.
For attacker defender, he just infiltrates his commandos across the line, and he says, "Okay, my unit is gonna get to Scout 9 wherever it wants to go, right? That you can't even, you don't even get the opportunity, right, to deny that. Now, looks like Zach didn't run that, but I believe Michael and Ben, definitely Michael, I believe. If not
Yeah.
both of them, then one of them was running the commandos, and it was just like, there it is. So yeah, just the fact that they have all of that stuff, man, it's just the, and it really just seems like um, the rules themselves are just too bananas. So yeah, what Matt described to me was he just said, yeah, I basically took out all of my um, I took out all of my anti-elite shooting and
Yeah.
essentially just replaced it with like the most efficient one damage shooting I have, right? So you see the units of Pyrovores, Tyrant Guard. I don't know much about them, but I know they're pretty strong.
Yeah.
Zoanthropes. So I know he felt really confident about this, and like obviously this list looks like completely different than what everyone else in the meta is running. So I would have been really curious to see how this actually would have worked in practice. But yeah, large small boys. That's funny. But yeah, so it needs to change. Until then, I'm gonna continue to play the build list the same way. I'm just gonna pretend that Mordaka doesn't exist, because I really just don't even think it's worth
Yeah.
like teching into just to mess up your other matchups when you're probably just gonna lose anyways.
Yeah, one of those you just accept it. If the gods will it, you shall face your worst enemy, and then it is what it is. You just submarine the rest of the way, right?
Yeah. I am curious, like when you kind of think back on our tier list, it was pretty early tier list. Like we didn't really have a good idea of like what the meta looks like. Were there any like, because I have one for sure,
Yeah.
of like armies, like standout armies where you're like, okay, maybe we like put that army a little bit low on the list, or maybe a little bit high on the list. I'm curious, does like anything come to mind for you?
I mean, I ended up 4-2, but that was a tough ending there. But I would have been at the third 5-1. I still wanted to advocate for guard being a little higher. I did end up watching Art of Wars after we did ours, and they had it as number two.
Yeah.
I do know my style is definitely a lot different than John Lennon's, but in general, I think there's just inherently our trash is so cheap
Yeah.
that it is somewhat problematic for most things to deal with, and we can trade fairly well. And I'm ready to have more trash again in one Roxy. So yeah,
Dudes in
I think
boxes, pretty good.
yep. Yeah, other than that, man, I definitely I do think Tyranids do
Yep.
deserve to be higher.
Mhm.
Some of those different builds are hard to deal with in a meta where you need, a lot of anti-elite or anti, not really horde, but just a lot of, you need to be able to kill a lot of small bodies well.
Yeah. Those were the two
Uh,
that I was thinking of. I think guard definitely, like we definitely underrated them by a large margin. I think they're an A tier army. I played them twice since then. Two different lists, two different styles, and they both beat like kick my ass. And I don't think guard's a good matchup for Tau, but I think it's like I think it's a winnable matchup for Tau. But yeah, I think I think there's a lot of depth in the book. I think there's even if they somehow get a nerf, which is not going to happen, I think there would be a really easy way to pivot into a different style of list. So I think there's a lot of options, which is really great for like high level players like you, because you can you can kind of go a different way than the rest of the meta, and like that's an advantage going into a tournament. And then same thing with Nids. Like yeah, I just think Monster Mash is really good right now.
mhm.
Because you just give yourself a chance no matter what if you have stuff that has a 4-up invuln and a 5-up field of pain and 15 OC. Like that's a problem, a terrible problem for you that you have to immediately address. And there are a lot of armies that can't do that. And when they do it, then like you get shot by exocrines, and it can go downhill really quickly. Um,
Yep.
one other army, kind of sneaky, that I think has like at least underperformed at this event to a degree, was Ultramarines. I didn't really see
Yeah.
like I kind of expected to see there was Roddy was in there right with his 18 Inceptors, but
Yep.
there weren't really many Ultramarines. Maybe there just weren't that many Ultramarines players there. I didn't actually check, but it didn't seem like they performed super well across the weekend generally. And I did see on MetaWatch Monday that they had like a 40, like Space Marines as a whole had like a 48% win rate, which I guess is like kind of standard now, but you would even think, even with newer players being added to the player base, that with the amount of people who are experienced players who play it, which is a lot, like a lot of
Yeah.
folks have gravitated to it since the changes, that there would be, some more significant results there.
Yeah, I definitely think I think it's opened up though. I think a lot of those players who are very good with the faction have maybe pivoted to some of those other ways to play. I still think like Blood Angels, not even Bloodless Angels. Blood Angels are still very good.
Hmm.
Fast melee in this meta just counters some of the hardest things to play into.
Yeah.
So you can't really, if I'm a Marine player and I have the ability to pivot and I'm, an experienced veteran who's good at this game,
Yeah.
I'm going to shift away and that's only going to reflect poorly on that win rate for the faction as a whole, for sure.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think yeah. Yeah, other than that though, I think we're pretty good, pretty close with the rest of the tier list. Nothing really stands out as like, oh man, that's so much worse than we thought, or way better.
Yeah.
I think everything still has a good chance to, you can definitely take any of the factions
Yep.
and do well with them. But
Yeah, I was telling Lane. Looked at the MetaWatch Monday for Auxiliary Cadre, 29% win rate for the weekend. So really doing your part, boys, on helping us get the nerf there. So but yeah, I think you're right. Like I think anything can win nowadays. I mean, let's pause. When MOAR DAKKA gets nerfed, hopefully in the near future, I think everything will be in a good spot. Um, not excited about the Ynnari meta coming back because they're gonna skate by.
yeah, I really think about. I think I was able to talk to Nick, who we've had on, and he talked all about Ynnari, and it was one of those things. It's like they really don't need the hammer so
No.
much as orcs do, but it's still like you shouldn't be able to do extra move tokens during your little end of the shooting phase. Like it still needs some tweaks.
Yep.
It is not insanely busted. There is definitely good counterplay.
Yep.
It's just the fact that if you are a shooting only army, I wouldn't say it's a hard counter to you, just flat, but it's definitely not favorable for you.
Yeah.
And then if it is a melee heavy fast matchup, Ynnari just feels terrible. And the fact that it's just there, it really feels bad, I think.
Yeah, and I was talking to Ben Jurek about it after the event, and he made like a really important distinction, which he was like spot on about it, which is Ynnari isn't it's not like a broken army, like to your point, because it does have hard counters, right? Melee pressure it really struggles into, but it is just a bad play experience for your opponent. Like it's just unfun. Like nobody has fun playing across from Yunari. The only person who's having a good time is the Yunari player, and they think they're like a freaking god. Like they're making all these like insane plays. It's like, yeah, sure, there's skill expression there, but like it's completely uninteractive to your opponent, right? And that's the part that sucks about the detachment is just it's just not fun to play against, and like that's why it needs changes in my opinion, not because it's broken, because it's just not a fun play experience. At the end of the day, this is a hobby, and we're like trying to have fun here.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too. Is it's not only do you as an opponent have to think hard about it, even the skill expression it required to play that army well.
Yeah.
You have to be like no one is walking away either playing it or playing against it and being like, oh man, what a nice, fun, chill game of Warhammer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're both sweating your fucking asses off trying to think about the 8 different ways things could go, and it's just.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no disrespect to the Unari players. Like, it is a hard detachment to play, but yeah, it sucks to play against. Straight up.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
I can only imagine if you went all 6 rounds as a Unari player, you're just fried. Like,
absolutely.
legitimately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hats off to you still.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to play you, but hats off.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers all of the RMO experience we had, kind of what was good, how we did. And, please let us know how your weekend went down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will check y'all later. Hit him with the tagline, John.
Peace.
Victory is a given, is forged. Don't you forget it. We'll catch y'all next time.